Hi guys, welcome to Barbie and Ken's world. So, my husband and I are currently in Austin, Texas. I was not able to film the actual travel day, which was yesterday. Right now I believe it's like 2 or 3 in the morning, but we got into town yesterday and my nerves were shot. So I could not do a lot of filming, and I just so right now it is, like I said, 2, maybe 3, actually no, it's 2:42 in the morning. My husband went downstairs to get some snacks and some more drinks from the market. So I figured since he's downstairs, it's good a time as any to start this vlog, my Austin, Texas vlog. So I love making vlogs. I love showing you all of my travel days, all the places that my husband and I go to. We have so many trips planned for next year. There's actually one other trip that my husband got planned. I'm not sure if it's exactly set in stone as of yet, but once I find out more information on that, I would definitely let you guys know. And yeah, so we are currently staying at Candlewood Suites Hotel in Austin, Texas. We are here to see his best friend that we went to college with. I'm not sure if he's okay to be filmed, like if he's okay with me filming him, but hopefully you guys will get a glimpse of him. He will be working for the majority of the time that we're here. Bummer, but that's quite all right, because I do have other things planned for my husband and I to get involved with, to kind of learn and see Austin and what Austin has to offer, because like I said, my husband's bestie will be working mainly the whole time, but we will spend time with him between Thursday and Friday. And today now is Monday. So yeah, we got into town yesterday. It's Monday. We're leaving to go back home to North Carolina Saturday. So yes, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys go, and I will see you guys later on in the day to show you guys more stuff. So ta-ta. Hi guys, I'm back. So we are about to do the Haunted Mansion walk or something of that nature, and we are dressed up. I don't think I dressed up that well because this wig is like giving me a hard time, but I'm supposed to be Sally, and my man doesn't have on his mask yet, but he's supposed to be Jack. So
Jack the Pumpkin.
yes, so I will definitely be taking you guys around with us so that you guys could enjoy this Halloween experience with us. But this is the back. So yes. All right, y'all. So we'll be back in a few minutes. Bye. Time for the walk. Happy Halloween, guys. We are going to take a walk around Austin and look at different things. So yes, I hope you guys like what you see.
The people employed there, so just so you know, any place I take you to tonight, you can go back and talk to the employees, because they are not considered vetted employees until they've had an experience with a ghost. So you can go back and get even more ghost stories from anyone that works there, so you know. So we're gonna go with that information in mind to the very first building that had a very tumultuous history behind it, and I will tell you all about some of the hauntings that have happened there. All right, y'all ready?
You're ready.
Woo! Let's do it.
Woo!
Building was the very first railroad station here in Austin, opened 1871 on Christmas Day. At the time, there were 4,000 people living in Austin. 3,800 of them showed up for this. The other 200 were probably sleeping off the eggnog. I know that's what I would have been doing, but it's fine. So they all came. Governor Island gave a speech from that rooftop, and then this place opened. It was a huge deal because that train wasn't just a passenger train, but also a freight train. Anyone here remember Sears, the store that's slowly disappearing across the states?
Yeah.
Yep. So Sears Roebuck catalog also came out in 1871, and people could use that catalog to order things in on the freight train, some of which were prefab houses. And they are still standing, a few of them. So you can drive around and see them. It's pretty cool. But it also brought in a lot of people that the town needed. Doctors, lawyers, more ranch hands, because this was originally a cattle town. But it also brought in a lot of prostitutes. So because of that, they all set up shop near this train station because it was a very busy area. So a lot of the bars that you've seen down there were either brothels and or warehouses. That was a brothel. Ignore the fact it says Austin Deep on the side. And then because of that, anyone here a fan of Quentin Tarantino films?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it was basically a Quentin Tarantino film on steroids after dark down here. This is what they called Guy Town or the Red Light District. So because of that, if you came down here after dark, you were not a self-respecting Austinite, which makes all of us degenerates. We're all one now, guys. So this was a huge deal because it ended up centering around this building, which means a lot of spirits are still in this building. And another thing that I found out about this building is after it stopped being a train station, it immediately became the largest brothel in Austin.
Okay.
And they actually think that they buried some of them under the floor, under the jazz club. And I learned that the concrete that was poured into the jazz club is my height thick. I know I'm not very tall, but that is a lot of concrete. So think about it. If you want to have a haunted jazz experience, go to Parker. Now, one of the craziest things that's ever happened in this building actually happened when it was the old spaghetti warehouse, which was opened in the 90s to early 2000s. And it happened to the general manager's daughter. So he was off. It was a Saturday night. They were doing a Blockbuster movie marathon when Blockbuster was at its prime, you know? So they're like, we got to get them done or we don't want those late fees. So they stayed up well past midnight. It was about 2 a.m. when it finished. Now, when they finished the movies, that's when the dad remembered that he forgot to get in the orders for the next week, which is pretty important when you're running a food company, right? So they're like, all right, we got to go back in. And he looked at his then 14-year-old daughter and was like, hey, you want to go with your old man back into the office? And she was like, sure, I guess I'll go. So then they come in and they go to the office, which is in the back corner of the building over here. While they're in there, he's like, you know what? She's here. Might as well put her to work. So he pulls out a blank clipboard and says, can you go into dry storage in the cellar for me and just do a quick inventory? And she was like, sure, I guess. She takes the clipboard, leaves, and as soon as she leaves the office, she immediately regrets it because A, they're the only ones in the building. So the only light in the rest of the building is from the red exit signs. She starts walking up the hall, out through the bar, through the dining area, into the kitchen. When she gets in the kitchen, she crosses over, grabs the handle to the storage, and immediately, it was like a cold jolt went from her hand up to her chest. She said it was like being dunked in a bucket of ice water. She wrenched the handle open, ran down the stairs, and turned on the lights because that fixes it, right? All the food on the shelves started to vibrate, and cans of tomato paste levitated into the air and smashed against each other. At that point, she was like, I'm out. She turned, ran back up the stairs, hits the landing, realizes it's not over. Now there's a haze in the air and she smells cigar smoke. She knows her dad doesn't smoke cigars, so she's like, where is this coming from? She leaves the kitchen, gets to the dining area, and from there she can see the last 2 bar stools by these double doors have 2 specters sitting in them. Yep. A specter is a ghost that you can see and fully. Now they didn't look dead, but they were actually dressed in 19th century attire. The man had on a dress shirt, vest, tie, top hat. He'd sat on the counter. His female companion was wearing a green dress cut off at the shoulders, hoop skirt. They were both drinking cocktails and he was smoking a cigar. She sees them and she's like, they already threw food at me. I don't want them to see me. So she kind of pushes herself against the wall and just shuffles over until she gets to about there. When she realized the only way to get to her dad is to cross right by the man. She's like, well, that's the only way I'm getting out of here. So she slowly starts walking up next to the bar, locks eyes with him, and then they disappear. The smoke is gone, the smell is gone. She runs into her dad's office and goes, two things. First of all, this place really is haunted. Second of all, I'm never coming here again. And to her credit, it's been nearly 30 years. She has not stepped foot back in that building. And I don't blame her. I wouldn't either. That happened to me. I also learned from the jazz club owner that he noticed paranormal activity in the basement, and at first they thought someone was breaking in and messing with them. So he started putting up security cameras all over down there. And now anytime paranormal activity happens, they'll notice what they do, like unscrewing the microphones for the drums, scratching the paint on the pipes. But whenever that happens, either the security cameras glitch and nothing is seen, or you just don't see anything and they're fine because like the scratches on the paint, they were like, if it was an animal, we would have caught it. Nothing was there. Just so you know. Have fun. Now, what is the most common cause of ghosts, you guys, but don't overthink it? Well, yes. Simplified. Yes, there it is, death. So, the next building we're going to actually had 3 deaths in the building, and we're going to go over there. I'm going to tell you all about Jimmy Glass and the women that died in the fire with him. Y'all ready?
Ready.
All right, let's do this. All right, welcome to the speakeasy, everybody. So, I was like, I thought we were missing something. All right, now, here. Okay. Looks about right. All right. So, the speakeasy was an actual speakeasy during Prohibition, and you are currently in that room. This is where people used to go get alcohol when it was illegal. This is pretty fun, right? Also, in case you didn't know, this place has 2 bowling lanes right above us on that level. Pretty fun. You can come back here and bowl all you want. Now, the reason we're here though is because this building actually suffered the greatest fire Austin had seen in over half a century back in 1916, claiming the lives of 3 people, 2 women and 1 firefighter. Now this was a big deal because Austin it was still a very small town, so they didn't have a lot of firefighters. In fact, they only had 12.
Oh.
All of them responded to this, but it was already so far along that all they could really do was try to prevent it from spreading to the surrounding buildings, because it was this one and the one next door, which you might have seen was a quick print. Back in the day, that was actually the Southwestern Telephone and Telegraph Company, which was the first time phone lines had been connected between Austin and Houston. It was a huge deal, but because of that, it was a mess. Now I'm going to show you a picture just so you kind of get the idea of how big this was. Hello. No, you're good. You're supposed to be here. It's fine. So, this was that fire. You gotta remember, people didn't have TV, so they like to crowd. Yeah. It's a big deal. Now, what is one of the most important rules to remember if you're in a building on fire, guys?
Stay low.
Yeah, stay low. What else?
Yeah, that's a big one. Get out.
Don't use the elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty important. But back then, people didn't have that rule. It was before the times of, in case of emergency, use the stair signs. And 2 women had been caught on the upper floors when the fire started. So because of that, they decided they were going to use the elevator to try to get out. They got on the elevator, and not only was that a bad idea just in and of itself, the elevator was also a bad design. So when the women got on the elevator, they slid the doors shut, and when it shut, the latch got thrown because they put a lock on it. Why, I don't know. And unfortunately, the lock was on the outside. So they were completely trapped.
Wow.
Now, all the firemen that got here, they realized they were stuck, so they all ran trying to get them out, but their tools were not what they are today, so they were pretty much useless. At that point, the head of the department was like, all right, we got to meet up back outside. They all gather up, and he's like, we cannot go back in that building. He was like, it is structurally compromised at this point. If we go back in, we are likely to lose our own lives. We have to cut it at this point. One firefighter named Jimmy Glass was like, I'm not giving up on those women. So he charged right back into the building, ran up the stairs, made it one floor up before it caved out beneath him. He screamed as he fell through, and when he landed, a beam crushed him. So because of that, all three of them perished in this building. And they all haunt it. Now, to be fair, if I died in a fiery metal box, I'd also be pretty miffed about it, so I don't blame the women, but they are the two most malicious ghosts on this tour. So don't go into closets in this building by yourself, or at least don't take both of you in the closet, right? Like, leave someone on the outside. Which a bartender here named Misty learned the hard way. Misty had the early shift. It's a bar, so it was 4 p.m. But she came in, she opened the door, let herself in, locked the door behind her. When she got in the building, she started setting up the bar, and as soon as the bar was set up, she's like, okay, I gotta go into the maintenance closet, grab a few extra items. So she did. She goes in, she started gathering everything, and she heard creaking. So she thought she dropped something. She's looking around, doesn't see anything. She's like, whatever, I'm going back. Turns around, and as she turns around, she sees the door shut. She was like, hey, I'm in here. And she starts going to the door, and as soon as she reaches it, she hears the latch. And just like that elevator, the latch was on the outside. She had no way to open it. She started pounding on the door, yelling for help, thinking one of two things. Either someone knew she was in there and they were pulling a prank on her, or they didn't know she was in there and they were getting another bar ready, so they were nowhere near her. At that point, she started to panic, pulled out her phone, started calling and texting everyone that she knew that worked here. It took another 15 minutes for anyone to show up, and once they did, they let her out. The manager was like, that is unacceptable. We will talk to whoever did this to you. They went back and looked at security footage. No one was here. She was alone in the building. So then they were like, okay, maybe we should go check the door, make sure no one put anything on it to make it do that. No mechanics. They did it by themselves. So don't make the women mad. But they do that kind of stuff all the time. They also like to break things. Now, poltergeists do like to move things. It's a fact. But most of the time, Jimmy just likes to make your life harder and move your shaker to the other side of the bar, which he does pretty often. But the women will actually break glasses. On the rooftop bar, they actually have the hanging racks for the glasses. And one night when the bartender finished, she grabbed all of her things, turned to leave, was headed towards the elevator, when she heard crashing behind her. She turned around and said it was like an invisible hand just pushing row after row out of the holder onto the ground behind the bar. She went and got the manager. The manager looked at it and was like, go home. She was like, thank you. She left. Now, Jimmy was a true protector in life, though, so he kind of kept that up after he passed. Now, I love Jimmy. I think he was a great guy, but he still kind of freaks me out. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Austin being the music capital of the world, and that being said, there are quite a few music festivals that come here, but the one that I'm referring to is South by Southwest, which is our big springtime one. And during that time, a lot of bands rent out the places like these that have multiple concert areas. So because of the different venues, they have to get extra bouncers. And as I said, people that work in these places are vetted by ghosts. One of the bouncers that was here was only here for a whole week. He met Jimmy in the ballroom. He said he was helping them close up so they could all go home faster. He was taking out the trash, and he turned and he saw the silhouette of a man standing in the corner of the ballroom watching him. And I was like, it's Jimmy! No, but he said he saw him, and I was like, what did you do? He's like, you know what's really weird? He was like, I wasn't afraid. I felt like he was protecting me. And in that moment, all my horror movie watching DNA kicked in, and I was like, what else was in the building? And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, why would he be protecting you if nothing else was in the building? And he was like, I didn't even think about that. I was like, well, that's fine. I'm not staying in the speakeasy until like past midnight. You can't pay me, I will not do it. But that's what happens. Now, Jimmy also tends to mess with people. Barry, one of the managers here, has an office. And like I said, this place was a speakeasy. So there are certain areas of the wall that they gutted to hide the alcohol when the police came. Because of that, when they redid the building, they chose to cut a couple corners, not completely drywall everywhere and just boarded up some of the areas to save a little extra money. One such area is in Jimmy's office, and his desk sits right in front of the boarded wall. When he was sitting at his desk, he was typing, he knocked over his glass, it hit the wall, and he heard the hollow noise. And he was like, I bet this is one of those spots. So he pulled the desk out and he started prying the boards off the wall. He got 2 off, and he did. He found a cut out of the wall. And he was like, awesome. It was about 4 feet deep, 3 feet wide, 2 feet tall. He pulls out his cell phone, starts looking around with the flashlight. It's dusty. No one has touched it in like 100 years. And as he's shining it through, he looks at the back wall, and in the dust it said, hello, Barry. Barry saw it and was like, has anyone been in my office? They're like, no, we're bartenders. He's like, good point, good point. So he put the boards back, put the desk back, and he didn't go back in for 2 days. Now when he told my boss about this, my boss was like, dude, are you gonna quit? He was like, why would I quit? And Jim was like, they know your name. He's like, yeah, but they misspelled it. So, and that's fair, because I know Barry was not a common name before like the 1950s. So, you know, he was Blueberry. It's fine. All right, so the next place we're going to, though, I love. It's one of the best buildings in town. It was built in 1915, has not changed. And the ghost that haunts it when she appears is actually a little more traditional looking. She does fully appear. And she has a long white dress, long dark hair. Think of The Ring, but not soaking wet coming out of your television to kill you. You know?
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna head north of here. I'm gonna tell you all about Emily and the reason she's there. Now, this is a ghost that doesn't haunt the place because she died in it. It's because she had a very tragic life that revolved around the building. So we're gonna go talk about Emily. Y'all ready?
Yep.
All right. And when it broke out, her fiance was sent overseas. He had his draft card pulled. Now, the reason she ended up over here was because of that little tan brick with white trim building just to the right. You see that little balcony there. So that building during World War II was the active VFW hall, Veterans of Foreign War Hall.
Oh, okay.
So after he left, she started writing him letter after letter after letter. He responded to the first few and then nothing after. So she started to panic and contacted anyone that she knew, and she started coming into the VFW daily for any information. Now, this is a very different time period from where we are today. You could not get a message from Asia in like 3 seconds. It took weeks to months if you were lucky. So because of that, going in there every day, they were like, Emily, this is not healthy. Like, you gotta live your life. Like, as soon as we know anything, you're gonna be the first person we talk to. But until then, like, go live. And she was like, okay, I hear you, I get it. So what she did instead was she got a job at the Paramount. She became an usher. The sad part is she pretty much worked there the rest of her life. They never found her fiance, he never came back, but she always held out hope that one day he would return. So she never married, never had kids, and just waited for him. She ended up dying of old age, very peacefully, but she still haunts the Paramount. I think she's still waiting for him. Now, Chad Lawson, a famous concert pianist, came here to do a show about 4.5 years ago. And as he was setting up for the concert, he was on the stage making sure the piano was tuned, everything was good to go. And he was like, you know what, for social media, I'm going to take photos of this place empty, and then again when everyone arrives. So he pulled out his phone and he turned it on blast, because that's what people do for sports, but he was trying to be efficient. So he pulls it out, turns it on, starts taking photo after photo after photo. As soon as the concert's over, he goes home.
And it's son of God proven.
He goes home, gets on his phone, gets on Instagram, and he's like, hey, I'm Chad Lawson. I'm an awesome concert pianist. Come check me out. #Paramount. And he starts uploading all these photos. And then he stops, goes back, deletes what he wrote, and puts, so there's a ghost at the Paramount, and then he uploads it. Now, every single news outlet in Austin found out about this, and they all did stories on it. And because of that, I have the photos. Now, this first one is because, as I said, he did this on blast. She was there so quickly, she was not in the one before it or after. And anyone that has ever seen them take those photos for any sports contest, you know that goes fast. So, she's in the second one. I think it was near like the 90s.
Oh, wow.
See?
Wow.
Mhm.
Yep.
Right in
She's in the
doorway.
second photo, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
in the
right there.
doorway.
Wow.
Now, just so you know, I think that white dress is the wedding dress she never got to wear. And in this photo, it's the entire photo, not just that sliver of it, and you'll actually see where she's standing in regard to the stage.
Mm-hmm. Just like, yeah, just like if she was an usher, she'd be showing
Exactly, she's standing exactly where an usher would have stood.
people. Mm-hmm.
I really do think that white dress is her wedding dress she never got to wear.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
That's true love. So you know she would have let him on the door if they went down in the Titanic.
Yeah.
So we know.
When you see it, like, what you see face?
Now, if you've ever wanted to go ghost hunting, this is the building I do it in. Mainly because a lot of the other buildings, it would be very difficult to be semi-alone in that room. But I think you could pull it off in the Paramount. Mainly because, yes, they still show movies, they do concerts, comedy shows, all of it. But they do still show matinees. And because of that, I feel like you could go to a matinee when it's not that packed, outweight the rest of the people, and then do exactly what he did. Pull out your phone, turn on blast, and see what happens. The guy wanted to be famous for music. He ended up being famous because he got a ghost on camera. You never know. But I think it's worth it. Now, I will apologize because if you do go, you probably will see the Titanic because that's like their favorite movie. I don't know why. It's always on. Play something else.
Yes, please.
Speaking of movies, though, who here is a fan of The Shining?
Oh, yeah.
Y'all ready to go to the Texas version of it?
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so we're gonna cross the street here. As we cross the street, for any of you that are not from Austin, if you want a photo of the Texas State Capitol building as a souvenir, that's the best time to get it because it's literally right down there.
Oh, yes.
Perfectly lined up shot. And if you want something that'll truly terrify your nightmares, look up a photo of the statue that's on top of that building. She is terrifying.
Wow.
So here's to talk about the Servant Girl Annihilator. Now, the Servant Girl Annihilator started killing right at the end of 1884. Last kills on Christmas Eve, 1885. All of his kills were within a 365-day period. So, within that year, he started, and as far as serial killers go, when you look at the very first kill, you kind of know whether it was the first or not in the area. He was not skilled. He had to actually ditch his clothes in a creek nearby. So if they had the forensic tools that we have today, he would have been caught. But because they didn't, he was not caught and continued his rampage. So the reason we're here is because his fourth victim, the 11-year-old Mary Ramey, was murdered just past this alleyway. Where you see the residence in Marriott today, that is where her mom, Rebecca Ramey, worked for the Weed family estate. That is where their house was. This was not Colorado. different type of weed. But when this was going on, the third murder actually had the town instill different rules, like a curfew, and that if you fell into his victim category, you did not go home alone. You did not even stay with your partner by yourself, because they were also vulnerable. You stayed with friends, family, your employers, whoever. You did not go home by yourself. Mary and Rebecca were no different, and the family was like, nope, don't stay in the servant quarters, come stay in the main house. And that's exactly what they did. He still found them. Not only that, but the 2 guard dogs they had didn't make a sound. So they realized the guy either knew the dogs and had been around the house a lot, or he bought them off with meat. They weren't sure which. But it was brutal. And when the cops found her, she wasn't quite dead yet. They were like, who did this to you? And right then, that's when she died. So they got no answers. Now that very night, as they're looking around for clues, trying to figure out why the dogs didn't bark and everything, they heard howling. And they're like, what is that? So they go look around and they find a man that's so drunk he's howling at the moon on the street. And it's Maurice. He was the Malaysian head chef at the Pearl House Hotel, and the Pearl House Hotel is where Cooper's Barbecue is today, which is a block that way and a block and a half south. So when they see him, they're like, Maurice, what's going on? He's so drunk, he's incoherent. And then they look at his clothes and they realize whatever happened to Mary would have left blood on the person. So without blood on him, and he was so drunk, they didn't think he was capable of committing such a heinous crime. So they let him go. But they neglected to ask a few things, in my opinion, like, have you changed your clothes tonight? Where do you live now, Maurice? And had they asked that, they would have found out he lived in a house where that tower is, catty corner to the residence in Marriott. Meaning he probably walked by the Weed family residence on a daily basis to work, where he had access to a lot of meat. But they didn't ask those questions. So they let him go. Another man that was also a possible suspect was Elgin. He was an African-American man, and when they questioned him, he always had enough of an alibi to be released. So that was pretty much what continued through this whole thing. The other people that were suspects were the husbands and or boyfriends of the murdered victims and a few other people in town. Which normally they go to the husband and or boyfriend in these type of crimes, which is normal. Now, after Mary, though, the town was so mad that all of the things they already put into place didn't work, and that the police were closer to catching this guy. So what they did instead was they overturned the police station. Completely new sheriff, constable, deputies. They even deputized like 100 other men in the town to stand at different junctions of the streets to keep an eye on everything. Still didn't work. But they were doing their best. Now the next 2 victims, they actually found some pretty important clues, like a bloody footprint missing a toe at both crime scenes. And at the second one, so the 6th one, there was a witness. It wasn't unusual for parents to sleep with their kids back then, because if you didn't have money, you probably only had one bed. The woman that was murdered was a mother of 3 boys, and he woke up the middle child. He was about 9 years old. When he woke up, the guy grabbed him by the shirt, shook him, and said, "Where's the money?" The kid was like, "We don't have any money." So what they think he did was that he pulled out a handkerchief that was soaked in chloroform, knocked the kid out, and put a pillow over his head. Unfortunately, because the kid already realized there was danger, I think his subconscious was trying to wake him up, so he was the first one to wake up and found his mother. When the police interviewed him, he was interviewed 3 times, 2 times by local cops before the last 2 murders, and 1 time after by detectives that came in from the East Coast. The local cops missed a very important clue, and I will tell you what it is, but not quite yet. So the last 2 murders were Susan Hancock and Eula Phillips. Susan Hancock, they believed, was the first one murdered that evening because she lived closest to what you know today as Lady Bird Lake, but is actually part of the Colorado River that's dammed. One of the most natural hazardous causes here is flooding for people. So because of that, they dammed that river. But back then, it was still a problem, which is why everyone settled north of it when they first moved here. So they think he killed her first because, as I said, there were all those deputies that they had in town, and that would draw them down, trying to cordon him off. But he managed to break through it and got up to Eula Phillips. And then he murdered her. That was the last murder he committed in this town. After that, the entire town found out about it because it's Christmas Eve. All of those guys told everyone. At the time, there were 17,000 people living in Austin. 5,000 of them took to the streets armed with rifles and torches, basically recreating Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, searching for the guy. It was terrifying. And the cops were like, okay, we got to do something. Innocent people could lose their lives. We got to start back at square one. So they go back to every single person they ever suspected. When they go back and question Elgin, he again has enough of an alibi, but I will say 3 months after that, he was caught in a bar trying to assault a woman and drag her out. Not the same MO in the slightest, but when he was dragging her out, the police were called. They showed up, they got into a gunfight. Elgin was shot and killed. And when they did his autopsy, they found he was missing a toe. But I'm not going to say that's the most damning of evidence because it is the late 1800s, and I'm sure a lot of people were missing a digit or two. But things get weirder when it gets to Maurice. So we're going to head to our last location. I'm going to tell you all about Maurice and the weird twists and turns that happen after this. All right, y'all ready?
Ready.
Everybody, after those last 2 murders, their biggest mistake was waiting to go back and question Maurice on New Year's Day. They show up at the Pearl House Hotel New Year's Day at 8 a.m. They go talk to the proprietor and they're like, where's Maurice? She says, he's gone. They're like, what do you mean he's gone? And they say, well, he came in 2 hours ago demanding the rest of the money we owed him for last week and said he's leaving Austin, going straight to Galveston, getting on a train and leaving the country. They're like, well, where did he go? She's like, I really don't know. We know now where he went. Anyone want to guess? Thanks. Closer. Yep.
Where did he
Jack the Ripper.
Oh, wow.
Now, what started here was clearly the very beginning, but what he did here could definitely morph into what Jack the Ripper did. And both of them famously killed 2 women in one night. There's a lot of overlaps in these. One of the other ones is that A, they were both never caught. B, he used aliases as soon as he left here. And C, Scotland Yard questioned him in the Jack the Ripper case. But they actually got his real name, so they knew his name was Maurice. But as soon as he left here, they knew he was using aliases because they went back and they checked the shipping logs. Because back then, if you got on a ship, you had to log yourself onto it, and Maurice was nowhere in them. And then there were people in England who had recounted meeting a man claiming that he was from Austin, Texas, and that he was a head chef here, but his name was Alaska. So it goes way back. Now I know a lot of people think that Jack the Ripper had to have been a surgeon, but Maurice was a head chef who worked in Texas, meaning he had to butcher his own meat fairly often. And what happened to the poor women here definitely would have given him the knowledge of the internal anatomy to do what Jack the Ripper did. I'll let you think about that. A little gross. I get it. It's true. Now, no matter what anyone says, I will tell you that the APD is so into this being a fact. Anyone here know what a challenge coin is? Okay, so challenge coins were made during World War II. They were meant to be with you in case you ended up stranded in enemy territory, because you might have to find an ally. And of course, if you find an ally in enemy territory, they might think you're a spy. And they might want to kill you. So then you pull out that coin to prove you're American, you're French, whatever you are, you have it to prove it. And then that way you don't get killed and they might help you. Now, today they still make challenge coins, but they're very specific to police departments. And now if you get one, it's because you did some outstanding act of service. The APD challenge coin is obviously APD on the front, on the head side, because that's normal. The tail side they designed themselves, which is the downtown city skyline with Jack the Ripper standing in front of it. That is how committed they are to him being both serial killers. And the timeline does match up. And what are the odds you're going to end up in 2 major cities with a prolific serial killer and have nothing to do with them? Just saying. Now, if you like that kind of stuff, there is a game based off of Jack the Ripper. Board game. Actual board game. We're going to kick it back old school, all right? And it's called Letters to Whitechapel. One of your friends, and we all know which one it is in our friend group, but they play Jack. And then the rest of you are the cops trying to catch him. So depending on Jack's intelligence, this game could be really short or really long. Just depends. But it is really fun. So if you guys like that kind of stuff, highly recommend it. All right, are there any questions? That was the last 2. Yeah, the MO, basically, I'm not going to go into details because it's pretty gory, but he used an axe, a knife, and ice picks on his victims. Huh? I imagine he probably either stayed in England or moved somewhere else completely off the map after Jack the Ripper disappeared, so. Not that I've heard of. I mean, my apartment flooded, but the water does like shut off, so I don't know. Maybe. Alright, any other questions? I will tell you though, there is a murderer here in Austin right now that's killing men, so keep an eye on your boyfriends and or husbands.
Wait, there's a what now?
Yeah. On Rainy Street. Just don't go to Rainy Street.
On Rainy Street?
Yeah.
There's somebody killing men?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know if they've stopped, but
I haven't heard about one in a while.
Okay.
huh?
I haven't heard about one in a while.
Yeah, I haven't heard about one in a while, but someone actually brought it up the other day, so I'm a little nervous too. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
okay. You know, just be careful.
Okay.
Just be careful. All right, 2 things y'all can do to help me out. First one, 5-star review saying Liz is awesome, always helpful. Second of all, I do accept tips via Venmo, Cash App, or cash. Not necessary, but I like to eat on occasion, so appreciate it. Other than that, you guys are free to go. Have a great rest of your night, guys.
All right, thank
And happy
you.
Halloween!
Happy Halloween! Hi guys. I hope you guys enjoyed all of the history that went with the murders that go on here and all of that. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'm actually about to end this vlog. I'm trying to, what the name? Babe, do you remember exactly the name of this tour?
Right off.
Well, we don't remember right offhand, but I know it was the Austin Murder Walk, I believe. But I hope you guys
Yeah, that's
enjoyed.
the Austin Murder Walk.
I hope you guys enjoyed all the information and it wasn't too boring for you guys. So, I'm a little bit, my allergies are now starting to act up. I need to get this wig off. Cause, I mean, yes, honey. But yeah. So, I'm gonna end the vlog here. I'll probably make this a part 1 of Halloween. So happy Halloween, guys. By the time you guys see this, it'll be probably the day or 2 after Halloween, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed everything. So if you guys like this vlog, give me a thumbs up, and also feel free to subscribe to the channel if you want to, as well as clicking on the bell right next to subscribe. That'll give you guys all the updated notifications of when I do new videos and vlogs. So with that being said, guys, stay one with the waves. Bye.